Hey, everybody. I can't believe I'm saying that, but welcome back to the second year of Dental Marketing Go. It's our 2-year anniversary, and today we're going to be giving you some of the best highlights of our podcast, which is all about tactical help on growing, whether that's the right mindset around marketing and growth, or it's looking at the right numbers, or it's even just those simple hacks that help you get off the ground. This is a podcast dedicated to making sure that you get all the things you need to grow your practice the way that you want. Thank you so much for everybody who tunes in, and I can't wait to share all these great tips from 2024. A lot of these are going to blow your mind. Stay tuned. This is the number one reason that people are losing their new patients, okay? And you just can't see it. It's invisible to most offices. And here's the red flag that you want to listen for. If your team keeps saying, oh no, they didn't schedule, they were just shoppers, that's your red flag that you're losing dozens or even scores of new patients on the phones. Now, let's jump into it. So what are the 4 questions that people or patients will ask on the phone? There's only 4 of them. So let's go over those really quickly. Number 1, how much does this cost? And this is the one that messed most people up. I'm going to give you the exact scripting on this, okay? But let's talk about the other questions. When can you see me? That's an easy one, right? Now, if your team is putting new patients weeks out, you're going to have a high no-show rate of those kind of new patients from marketing. Patient referrals will wait, right? That's fine. But marketing new patients won't wait. They'll end up scheduling somewhere else, and then you'll get a no-show, and then you'll be mad. And you'll say, these are low-quality patients. No, you scheduled them too far out. Okay, so that's the win. And then the hardest question is the insurance question. Do you take my insurance? Now, I've listened to thousands and thousands and thousands of new patient calls personally. Plus, I have a team of, I don't even know how many people we have on the team that listen to all the phone calls, tons of people that listen to calls, and we pour through all the data. And this is exactly how almost every patient asks this question. Do you take my insurance? Now, I'll tell you this one's the trickiest one, because even when you do take insurances, or even if you do bill to the insurances, your team hears you complaining about insurances. So your team just says this, we're not in network with those insurances, and you are just losing new patients from that. If you are an office that takes insurances, not necessarily in network, but you bill to the insurances, you have to say just like this. Oh yeah, we have a lot of patients that come here with that insurance. Let me get your information. Let's get you in. We'll do a complimentary benefit check. The reason that you have to handle it that way is insurance is super confusing. It's confusing to your team. It's confusing to you. It's confusing to the patient. And guess what? It's literally created that way. You might be thinking like, why did they do that? Why do the insurance companies do that? Have you ever seen the movie Incredibles, where Mr. Incredible is in his cubicle and he's working and he hates his job? And a little old lady comes in and she's like, my house burnt down. They won't pay for it. How does this work? And Mr. Incredible comes in and he whispers to her. He's like, submit this form, do this, say this. And he gives her the exact steps. And it's really confusing. And he says, if you do that, they'll pay out. Insurance companies do that on purpose. It's not a bug. It's a feature. They put it in there on purpose. They make everything confusing. So that way, people don't use their benefits. The harder they make it, the more friction that they create, the less people that use the benefits, which means the more profitable the insurance companies are. So you have to just make it super simple. Yeah, we have a lot of people that come here that have that insurance. Come on in. Now, if it's a Medicaid insurance and you don't take Medicaid, don't answer it that way. Obviously, I'm not talking about state insurances. I'm not talking about HMOs. I'm just talking about PPO. So I want to be really clear on that. So how much is question number 1. When can you see me? Question number 2. Do you take my insurance? Rarely does a patient ask if you're in network with their insurance. And then, do you do this treatment type? That one's easy, right? Yes or no? Yeah, we do. We have lots of patients that we do that for. Whoever has the most Google reviews in that like 4-star range, right? 4.2, 4.3 and up, that person is going to get the bulk of the new patients. It's going to help all of their marketing costs be cheaper, meaning every time they invest $1, they're going to get more out of that dollar than the guy that has less Google reviews. And you're also going to get more patient referrals, and you're going to get better employees, and you're going to get better associates. Why is that? All those people, the first thing, if you tell me to go look at your office, if you say, hey, Gary, you should come here as a patient, or you should work with me and help me with my marketing, or anything, or Gary, you should work at my office. Guess what the first thing I'm going to do is? I'm going to go and look you up on Google, and I'm going to look at your reviews. And I'm also going to look, for me, I'm going to look at the rest of your competition in the market. So if you have 100 reviews and everybody else in your market has 20 reviews, you're doing really good. You're 4x, 5x more reviews than everybody else. So that tells me something about you. Now, if you're at 2,000 reviews and everybody else is at 5,000 reviews, that also tells me something. Tells me you're in a really competitive market and that you're a little bit behind the curve, right? Doesn't mean you're not a good office. It just means there's better offices out there from a Google review notion. And now you may hear that and say, no, they're not better because of X, Y, and Z. I get it. I totally get it. Maybe you're a way better office, but that's not the first impression that you're giving. You're giving that you're about half to a third of the other offices because they have way more reviews than you. So what you want to do is you want to make a goal to just keep doubling your Google reviews every year. And it gets hard when you get really big, right? When you get it up to like 1,000 or 2,000, it's really hard to double from there. But if you're at 100 or 200 or 300 Google reviews, you should make it a goal to double those this year. And you can do it. And the secret to doing it is very, very simple. And again, I give this away in the document down below. If you want it, just comment. We'll get it to you. It's very simple. All you have to do is motivate your team. So how do you do that? How do you motivate your team? Well, your team is motivated by money. So we actually have a system in here that you can motivate them to get Google reviews through a contest, right? Now, what I've seen actually work the best for this is you can do one person or you can do the whole office. It's totally up to you. Talk about why. What most doctors do is they're like, oh, I'll give, a gift card to the patient. The patient isn't the one that needs the motivation to leave the review. It's the team members. And the reason that's important is, number one, let's say you have 1,000 Google reviews and then all of a sudden you go to a patient or your team goes to a patient and says, we'll give you a free cooler if you leave a Google review. And that patient doesn't have a great experience for whatever reason. And they go and leave a Google review on Google and they say, all these Google reviews are fake. They offered to pay me to leave a review. They try to bribe me to leave a review. And that's probably what everybody else did on here as well. That one negative review nukes all of your other reviews. If I saw that, I'd be like, oh, these are all fake. And so would you, right? At the sushi restaurant. If you saw a sushi restaurant, 2,000 Google reviews, everybody else has 500. And then the top comment on there is like, these are all fake. They try to pay me to leave them a good Google review. You're like, ooh, right? It causes you to question and put doubt on the rest of the review. So that is the most nuclear comment that you can possibly get on Google. So you don't want to do that. What you don't realize is the reason that review is showing up so high is because it's the most relevant. Google reviews do not show up in a timeline, meaning if you post today, then that's the one that shows up today. And then the one from yesterday is the day before and the one for the day before that. It doesn't post that way. It posts by relevance. Okay. Does that make sense? So just because someone posts today doesn't mean that review is even going to show up very high. And if you have 500 reviews, nobody's going to read through all 500 reviews, right? So how do we make sure that our bad reviews are not the relevant ones and our good reviews are the relevant ones? Well, it's very simple. The reason that rat and roach one was showing up first, even though it might have been from yesterday or 6 months ago or 2 years ago, was because people interact with it. So on Google reviews, you can interact with the reviews. You can give a thumbs up, you can leave a comment underneath them, all those kind of things, okay? And the more you interact with the review, the more relevant it is. And the less interaction, if no one ever looks at it, no one ever touches it, then the less relevant it is. Does that make sense? Okay? And the more relevant a review comes, and the more people who see it, and the more people who thumbs up it and interact with it, the more relevant it becomes, okay? So you say, okay, well, how can I hack this? Well, here's what you do. First, you find your best reviews. And this is why I'm not a huge fan of commenting on every single review that you have. Shouldn't do that. Don't need to do that. Some people recommend that out there. I don't think that that's a good strategy. You can respond to some of the good ones, thank them, respond to some of the bad ones correctly if you want. So what you should do is find your best reviews. Take maybe your top 5 reviews. Maybe you want reviews on aligners. So you're going to go find all your reviews on aligners. Maybe you want to highlight your team and your culture and how your team treats everybody like family to their patients and all that kind of stuff. Find those reviews. Maybe you do implants and you want the ones that talk about how you're trustworthy and you were affordable and you had finance options and you're going to find you changed their life and you're going to focus on those, whatever, right? Find your best 5 reviews that you want everybody to see. Then you want to comment to those as you, okay, as the office. Then you want to thumbs up them. And then separately, you want your friends, your family, or your coworkers to thumbs up those reviews as well and interact with them, okay? Now, I don't have proof for this part, but I think it's true. I don't think you should be doing this on the same IP address, meaning don't all be in the office with 5 of you doing it on the same IP address. If you can, be on separate IP addresses as you do this, okay? So ask them to do it at home, basically, or ask somebody else to do it. Ask your grandma who lives in Wichita and you're in California to do it for you or whatever, right? And just thumbs up it. What you'll realize is these reviews, because now they're the most relevant, you only need 4, 5, 6 thumbs up to make the review the most relevant. And then if you really want to level it up, if it gets, if you really want it to show up first, you can post like pictures. Thanks so much for coming into our office. We loved what you said about our team. Here's a picture of Susan, our hygienist that you were talking about. She's the best. We love her. You can attach pictures to it. Okay, so now you've thumbs upped it, you've replied to it, then you've replied to it again with a picture. Now that is the most relevant review and it will show up first. And then what you can do is you can take the cockroach example I was giving you, the bad reviews that you just don't want anybody to see, and do the same exact thing, but flag them. Flag them. That's different. That has the opposite effect. And if a couple people do that, Google starts to push those down or even sometimes removes them. Most offices do not listen to their calls, and we do that for our clients. So here's an example of a client. They were spending $5,500 a month with us, single location, and they were getting 51 new patients a month. Their conversion rate when they started was 39%. We were able to make some simple changes for them, and they went to 77% conversion, and their new patients went from 51 a month to 88 a month. Okay, so you're talking about 50, 60, 70, 80. You're talking about a 37 more new patients, not by spending more money. They didn't spend any more money with us. They just answered the phone properly. And that unlocked so many new patients. The first thing I want to tell you is that most dental offices use the front desk as a filtering system. Okay, and you know what I'm talking about, docs. Most people, a lot of marketers don't understand this, but dentists know exactly what I'm talking about. So most doctors use the front desk as a filtering system, meaning they either intentionally tell the front desk to filter people out, or they kind of subliminally tell the front desk to weed people out. Let me give you an example. You might say, man, I had another patient today with ABC insurance come in. They were horrible. And so the front desk starts screening out those insurances. Or we had this type of treatment. I didn't like doing this type of treatment. And they start weeding out those kind of patients. And it might not be your intention for them to do that. They're just picking up on your vibe. The other thing is front desk sometimes weeds people out as well. And the reason that they do that is it's just more work for them. I have some videos on Instagram and on YouTube that I just called offices and I was just like, hey, how much is Invisalign? Oh, it's this much. Okay, thank you. All right, have a good day. They didn't even try to schedule me. They didn't even attempt. They didn't get my information, nothing. They didn't care. And the reason they didn't care is because they got a million other things going on. They don't have any reason to care. No one's holding them accountable. And then offices wonder why they're not growing. Well, that's why. And that office that I called, they were marketing. I clicked on their ad. So they're paying to get people there. And then their team's just weeding them out. And then the office was probably going, oh, the marketing doesn't work. Let's stop marketing. And if you don't believe me, just go try it. Go call a dental office. Any office. Just go through and call them. It's horrible. It's an epidemic inside of dental. Dental offices answer the phone like they're like some big, like if I call my hospital, right? You call the emergency room. That's how most dental offices answer the phone, like they're an emergency room. The emergency room doesn't care to take your call on customer service and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to save people's lives. Dental offices, we don't have the luxury to answer the phone that way. So that's the first thing that I want to call out to you is that you can't filter people that way, okay? And I'm going to give you some other filtering systems that work much better than that in the training. All right, number 2, pricing. Most offices do not know how to answer the pricing question. So what's the pricing questions? Patients are going to call and say, how much is a dental implant? Or how much is whatever, right? And most offices are just going to say, oh, we're not allowed to give that pricing. Or they're going to say, oh, we'll give you a range. It's this much to this much. Those are both wrong. That's incorrect. Number one, you're diagnosing on the phone. How do you know that they actually need a dental implant? You don't know that. So for you to give prices is very irresponsible because you don't have any idea if that's what they're actually dealing with, or if there's other problems there that might be way bigger or way smaller. You're not doing them any service, right? So we shouldn't be quoting prices over the phone, but the way that we do it is so important. All you have to do to get to the root of the problem is ask some clarifying questions. We call them drill down questions. And I have the scripting on these, okay? So if you want these, just comment below, I'll get them to you. And we have them for all different services. I'm just going to give you implants. So on implants, if someone calls in, says, hey, how much is an implant? You simply say, okay, well, how many roots does the tooth have? Is the tooth impacted? What's the bone density like in that area? Oh, you don't know? Oh, that's okay. Well, we have a free exam and x-ray, or we have a free consultation. You can come on in. We'll take a look at it, no charge, and let you know exactly what it's going to cost to take care of the problem. And to be honest with you, nobody can answer your question about pricing without that information. These are like basic things that you need to know to be able to answer that question. Our new patients have more than doubled. So they doubled and then they half doubled again, right? So they went from, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 20 new patients to 50 new patients, something like that, right? Huge jump. And so everybody's happy, right? And then we get a note saying, no, we don't want to continue relationship with you anymore. And we're diving into the middle of it right now. So I don't know all the details, but I looked at all the data. So I have a really, really good idea. So one thing is they're spending about $10,000 a month. So one thing is for sure I can see is that they don't want to spend $10,000 a month. So number one, someone promised them, hey, we can get you the same results and spend a fraction of that. Okay, that's great, right? I have no problem with that if that's the only thing. But the other problem was in the ROI. And I'm going to explain this, the return on investment. So the return on investment in the same month is dismal. It's like 100%, 50%, which is really, it's not good, right? You want to get that up into the 200s, 300s, 400%, right? Here's the problem. They never learned block scheduling. So I started to dip back in the data, and in August, their ROI is 400%. In September, ROI is 300%. In October, around that, right? I'm rounded these numbers. October is 200%. November, it's not even 100%. And December is even lower. Why is that? What's going on there? Here's what's happening. They're putting their new patients so far out that they're not realizing the treatment from those new patients until 2 and 3 months later. So what happens is the marketing that you're doing 3 months ago, you're just experiencing that today. You're just starting to get the ROI from that today. And it's almost impossible to track unless you really have a lot of deep conversations, deep conversations. It's impossible for you to see what's going on. So you think that what's happening this month is from this month, but it's not. It's from 3 months ago because you push new patients so far out. So it's taking a month to see a new patient. And then that new patient's coming back like a month later to do the treatment. Because you're not scheduling efficiently. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, whoa, I'm not doing that. That's not happening to me. This is so common. And it's such an easy fix. The fix is so easy. You just have to block schedule your new patients, and you have to leave availability to do the treatment when they come in. That's it. And now the ideal thing, and I know this is really tricky and people hear this and they're like, I can't do that. But this is where you want to get to. Same day appointments, same day treatment. If you can do that, your ROI shoots through the roof. You don't have all these lagging ROI, these lagging money coming in months and months later. And you don't have to make all these changes to your marketing because everything just works. Now, a lot of people can't get to that, but at bare minimum, try to get people in 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 business days from when they call, and then try to get their treatment done right away while they're there. And if not, try to get it done like the next day. Patients don't want to come back. Let's just be honest. Patients do not. As a patient, when I go to a dental office, I don't want to come back again and again and again. I'm blocking time today, and that's it. And I expect everything to get done. Now, I know it can't always get done, but that's what I want as a patient. And that's what every patient wants. No patient ever said, I really hope I can stretch this out into a lot of other appointments. Never. It's really hard to grow when you don't answer the phone. People don't believe me that dentists don't answer the phone, but I always challenge people, call your office and see.
Call your office. Well, there's the thing is that they think their office manager is like world class, right? And she might be, but she doesn't have the systems and skills to convert all these patients. So if he spent $6,000 a month, it's not going to be great.
It's not going to work. So let's talk about that first, because that was the first thing. So it was like, it's a different conversation, because normally marketing people aren't like, answer the phone and convert the phone, answer the phone, convert the phone, right? But really that's the gateway into your office. That's the door into your office. Yeah. And the average office right now, it's really bad. The average office doesn't answer 35% of their calls during normal business hours. Now, some people are way worse, but that's the average. So
just that if you're like, makes me so anxious.
I know, right? And then the average phone conversion for marketing patients is 50%. So how did you stop that? And then how did you fix that?
Okay, that's a great question. So the first thing was incentivizing and training, right? So you need to have a rock solid script for the people answering the phone. You have to have more than one person that's ready to answer the phone, because if you have one person up front and they're trying to answer the phone, check in, check out, and then answer the assistant's questions, it's going to be really tough. So either you have to have another person in front, or another assistant, or someone that's going to get the phone as soon as it rings.
So you have to have the bodies, right? You got to have the bodies if you're going to grow.
Yep.
And then you have to have training.
Yep.
So you have to have the scripting.
Yep.
And that's something we provide for all of our clients. It's not, people hear that sometimes and I think they feel like there's like some secret. It's not secret. It's like very straightforward, very easy to understand. Everybody gets it. But then one of the things that most people leave out, and I would love your thoughts on this, you got to have accountability, meaning you have to actually track it. So your friend who never answers the phone probably doesn't track it.
No, I'm sure not. Yeah, I'm sure not. Because if he knew that it was never being answered, he'd freak out, right? So yeah,
if I said, hey, you're missing 50% of your calls, heads would roll, but he's just like, yeah, we miss a call here and there. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Well, we just get so busy and we're so productive that, we can't get to everything, and that's going to happen, right? But if it's 50%, and if you're trying to grow, you have to put money into marketing. Like, new patients is the lifeblood of the, just is. So we had, in May, you said our fourth biggest new patient month. We also had our biggest collections month ever. And as I go back and look, it trends.
What was that number, by the way? What was your collections, if you don't mind me asking?
About 525. That's round. I can't remember exactly, but it was
something like that in that ballpark.
5, and we did like 510 or 515 a little while ago. I know. So it was somewhere in there. 525 probably. There's 4 doctors. So the ROI on those new patients is really strong as well, right? Like we've made that really work. But as we go back and look, it really tracks, right? As your new patients go up, production collections will kind of follow that. And, we have gotten, so our production has gone up higher than the new patients, but it's still, that is kind of the lifeblood that is going to show your trend of your practice. So you've got to have that investment. So going back to the scripting idea, scripting is just something that allows you to have a consistent conversation so that you know what to expect and where you want to go. Otherwise, you sound stupid. If you've ever had your calls recorded and you have to listen to them, or in our office, so I've got 3 associates, and we were talking about like, how do we be consistent with our treatment planning? We had one of our hygienists randomly record all 4 doctors, including myself. And it's not great to listen to yourself sometimes, because I have very great numbers. I convert a lot of patients. I sell a lot of big cases. I had to listen to that that
recording.
Yeah, the reporting of a new patient. And there's a lot of things in there that I wasn't loving to hear, right? So that's
hard to listen to yourself. Yeah,
it is. It's hard to listen to yourself. And with our new patients, I kind of have a script, but I don't necessarily follow it all the time. But if you listen to our people on the phone taking incoming new patients, your script is very basic, and we review it. We've tweaked it and done a few things just to make sure that it's very, very concise, very clear. And they do a really nice job. Even brand new people, we can get them answering the phone successfully very quickly. Every office has a hard time staffing up front. Like, that's one of the ones that happens over a lot, right? So you have to be able to train that in. We try to have them 3 days, 2 or 3 days where they can pretty consistently get calls. And then we have follow-up training, right?
And it's one of the most powerful things that you can run to boost production. And I would recommend that you do this in September. So that's the month that I would pick to run this. So what you do is you go into your database in your PMS and you find everybody who has any treatment that's unscheduled. So any treatment that hasn't been scheduled onto the books, and you can do it for over a certain dollar amount. So you can go over 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, whatever. You pick the number, right? Depends on your practice. And so you get a list of all the people who have, let's just use 3,000 or more of open treatment that they know that they need, that you've already diagnosed, that you've already communicated with them about, and they just didn't accept it for whatever reason. Then what you do is you send an email and you say, hey, in September, we're training new team members, and we're going to be doing 20% off all treatment over $3,000. Any treatment that you get over $3,000, we're going to give 20% off. You can do exclusions, excluding aligners, or maybe you want aligners, whatever, right? So you put the exclusions in there and you text and email that out. What will happen is you're going to move a lot of that treatment that people were putting off. They're going to come in and do it. Now, if you really want to get good at this, what you can do is you can include patient financing. So you can start to include patient financing into the emails, say, hey, we also have patient financing. You can get pre-approved right now. So now people are like, man, I can finance it as well, get the payment down and get that 20% off. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, man, I'm giving 20% off. Plus I'm going to take a hit on the patient financing. I know, but you're going to drive more production and you're going to make more money because you got to remember, these are people that haven't got the treatment done yet. Right? So these are going to be people that need the treatment, and they're going to be the lowest hanging fruit, and you can get them into the office really, really quickly and make more money in September than you're used to making. The reason that this really impacts the dental industry during election years is because the election ads are very polarizing and they're driven by fear, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, if you watch the political ads, they're basically like, hey, if you vote for this person, we're all going to die, right? We're all going to disappear off the earth. And if you vote for this person, we're all going to die and we're going to disappear off the earth and it's the end of the world, right? Both sides are literally saying that it's the end of the world if you vote for them. And what that does is it freezes people. People get scared and they're like, man, if we don't vote for this person, it's going to be the end of the world. And so we're going to wait and see what happens. We're going to hold on to our money in case we need it for something, for an emergency or something like that. So people sit on the sidelines, and this hurts every single industry, not just dental, cars, houses, anything, any big buying decision starts to slow down a little bit. Now, it doesn't stop it completely. It just slows it down. And I was recently in a Facebook group, a big Facebook group with about 60,000 members. And someone posted in there, my October's still slow. My October is feeling like September. And that's not normal. And I was shocked by how many people, it was scores of people that were in there that were saying, me too, me too, me too, me too, me too. And I started to piece it together. It's because of the election. People are slowing down and they're making less buying decisions, which even if that only hits you by like 10% or 20%, that's a huge number that's impacting your practice. So we can sit on the sidelines and do nothing about it, or we can do something about it. And I want to first, before I give you the strategy, I want to first talk about what might happen. I'm going to give you worst case scenario. Okay. So leading into the election, there's a lot of fear. A lot of fear is going to be driven. And what could happen is kind of like what happened in 2020 and remember when George Bush and Al Gore ran against each other? And remember how the election voting count actually dragged out? So that could happen here again. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that the impact of this could drag into November, right? And it could get really ugly with like, I won, no, this, recount that. And the longer that drags out, the worse it is for the economy, okay? And it might drag out for a couple of days, it might drag out for a week, it might drag out for a month, right? So we just want to be ready for that. So what can you do to actually overcome this? Well, the easiest thing to do if you're an office that accepts insurance is just to keep running your end of year benefit emails, text messages, those kind of things. That's easy. End of year, your benefits are going to expire. And the reason that's the easiest is the same reason that dental's one of the most consistent industries in the world, is that it's the GP business is largely revolves around insurance, right? And benefits. So during downtimes, GP basic bread and butter dentistry doesn't really dip that much because people have those benefits that they can use, and dentists have gotten really good at tapping into those, right? Now, as you start to get into larger treatments, that's not the case. A lot of people don't remember during the 2008 downturn that we saw, the big recession that we saw. We haven't seen anything really like that again. Even COVID wasn't as big as that. Of bigger case type dentistry started to go out of business. Full arch wasn't as big back then, but a lot of like veneers and aligners and those kinds of practices that were largely predicated on those types of treatment, they closed down. And it was because the money dried up. So hopefully we don't see something like that, but it is something to keep in mind. Now, there's a second piece to this strategy that I want to give you. So the end of year benefits is part of it. And if you want the scripting on that, just drop a comment below. We already have all the scripting for that. You can run the text messages, you can run the emails, and you can also run retargeting ads for your patients. So you can very cheaply, a couple $1,000, just target all of your patients, hit them with an ad, and get them to come back in and use their benefits before the end of the year. Now, there's a second part. A lot of people in your practice are sidelined with their treatment. So there's treatment that they need, and they're just like kind of waiting. They're waiting to get that treatment done until after the election. So what I would recommend you doing is start pulling together your unscheduled treatment list that you've had for this year, for 2024. And I would run an unscheduled treatment campaign for into November, like right after Thanksgiving, right into December 1st. And I would run that right into December and into January. You say, what does that mean? So basically, there's people that you've already presented treatment to. There's people who've come in with problems. They got the problem kind of fixed, but not all the way fixed. And they're not buying treatment right now. What most people don't realize is at 5 o'clock, when everybody closes down in your market, almost everybody turns off their ads at that time as well. Why? Because no one's there to answer the phones, understandably. So everybody turns it off, but do the dental calls and dental searches stop? No. In some cases, they actually pick up. They actually get more busy for dental emergencies and things like that. And most people know that their dentist is closed. They call their dentist, they're closed, so then they go on to the next dentist and they try to find somebody. So what that means is you can actually grab patients after hours for relatively cheap. You say, how cheap? Well, it depends on the market, depends, how many people are running for emergency ads and those kind of things. But you can typically run ads after hours for a quarter of the cost, half the cost, even 25% off. It doesn't really matter. Like every market is going to be different. Percentage is going to be different every single time, but it's still a huge savings. But that's not all. But wait, there's more. Here's the other thing that most people don't realize about Google Ads. In every single market, there's a bunch of dentists that are do-it-yourselfers, right? DIY. And so they're running their own ads, but they have no idea what they're doing. So they go in, they kind of set it up, they set up a campaign, they don't have anything optimized. Like they're just out here just kind of doing it yourselves, right? Like the people who do their own ortho, right? Do-it-yourself ortho or do-it-yourself veneers and stuff like that, right? So these guys are out here doing their own ads, having no idea what they're doing. So they'll put $500, $1,000, and what do? They do whatever Google tells them to do. So they say, okay, I want to spend $1,000 over the next month. And then in the first week, it spends $250, right? And they get nothing from it. So what do? They turn off their ad. And then there's other offices that are also running ads at the beginning of the month, and then they lose a hygienist suddenly. Or their schedule gets jammed up for whatever reason, then they turn off their ads. So typically, you're going to have less competition towards the end of the month than at the beginning of the month. Now, am I saying don't run ads at the beginning of it? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you pay attention in your market and you understand these things, it will help you reduce your cost of your ads if you're paying attention. Now, the opposite is also true, though. In some markets, there's big players that are coming in and spending a ton of money and bidding up the cost per click. So if you think of some of the biggest DSOs out there, they might be spending $25,000, $30,000 in the first couple months on digital advertising in your little local market. That's a big budget. And what that does is it drives up your cost because they're bidding up the cost. So now you're competing against them. They're gobbling up all the clicks. And so you might have a month where your results drop, but as they reduce their budget, then it creates those opportunities are still there. And it's really important that you understand how supply and demand works. In every market, there's only so much demand, so many people that are searching Google in Google every single day for a dentist, and every month there's only so much supply. There's only so many dentists. So you have to balance those things out. And what most dentists don't realize is the demand is outpacing the supply. So in most markets, there's actually more new patients than there are dentists to help them. You say, no, that's not true. I don't have enough new patients. It doesn't feel like I have enough new patients. It is true. The average time to appointment in dental right now for just to get in and get your teeth clean is 3 weeks out. And that's how most patients come in, is through the hygiene department. So they don't want to wait 3 weeks, but that's the average time to appointment. So what does that tell you? That tells you there's more demand than there is supply. You just have to know how to grab that supply and be able to get them in. And you say, well, where's the disconnect usually? It's usually not on the marketing side. It's usually on answering the phone, converting on the phone, and then scheduling in a reasonable amount of time. The average dentist loses over 80% of their new patients before the patient ever walks through the door.
So the first thing you need to do, if you're opening a new practice, or if you're adding a new associate, or you're doing a new type of treatment you want to attract patients for, the very first thing you need to do is nail down your avatar. Who is the patient that you're speaking to? And this is so crucial. I'm going to use an extreme example, right? Let's say you're in office. Who have you been attracting up to that point? And you say, well, I work with families. Well, families don't do full arch, right? The avatar for a family practice is a 35-year-old mom, where the avatar for full arch is going to be like a 50, 60-year-old middle-class male, right? So 2 different avatars, radically 2 different avatars. And the marketing that you're going to do for one is going to be radically different than the other. This is why when people try to market services, it doesn't work. Another way that we see this is in ortho. It's a huge difference between marketing to a kid, marketing to a teen, and marketing to the working woman avatar, which is a huge growing segment in the ortho space right now. Huge. It's like it's going to continue to expand. Those are all different, right? You can't have like a Chuck E. Cheese vibe and try to attract working woman vibe for that wants to fix her smile, right? Those are 2 different avatars. So you got to get your avatar nailed down every single time. And anytime that you change treatment, your avatar potentially changes as well. If you're pedo, that's different than full arch or family dentistry or whatever, right? So I think you understand that, right? So comment if you want the avatar worksheet, comment down below. I'll get that to you. And it's just a questionnaire. It just goes through and basically breaks down everything that you need to know about your avatar and then tells you at the end, here's what you should be targeting. Okay. All right. So next, this is the second thing you need to do. So I'm doing these in order. Okay. Naming your practice. All right. Now here's what everybody does. They name their practice and then they pick their avatar. That's the wrong way to do it. You want a name to a practice that speaks to your avatar. You don't want to be Chuck E. Cheese, try to find like investment bankers to come to your establishment, right? Doesn't work. Or flip-flop that. You don't want to be like Morgan and Morgan and you're a play center for little kids. Doesn't work. You need to speak to your avatar. Now, from there, you need to decide if you're going to pick a name that's going to be SEO friendly. It's going to be brand friendly. SEO friendly is dentist in city name. So if you go dentistinroseville.com and that's the name of your practice, that's awesome for SEO, but probably not the best for branding because I don't really remember the name of the practice, right? It's more directions to the practice. Okay. And we see this a lot. Remember back in the good old days when the phone books were out, everybody named their business 123 cleaning or A to Z cleaning. Do you know why they did that? Like there was tons of business. We don't see this anymore, but there was tons of them. They would do that because it put you at the front of the phone book. Remember, phone books were ranked by alphabetical order. So if you were 1, 2, 3 carpet cleaning, you would be at the front of the phone book right when you open it up under the carpet cleaning section. Make sense? But people don't do that anymore. Now we optimize for SEO. So now you have, you put it in the comments, dentist near me, city name, right? So you need to decide which is more important to you. Do you want to build a brand that people remember the name? Or do you want to rank for SEO? Or do you want both? Because you both, right? There's ways to do both, but you got to kind of get creative and get cute with it. The first thing that you're going to need to do to level the playing field is improve your operational efficiency. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about the black hole of marketing. So most dentists, and when I say most, I mean 80%, are losing 80% of their marketing budget before the patient gets in the door. Now, a lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but it's true. Industry averages tell us that. So how do we know that? Well, the industry average for unanswered call rate is 35%. So that means if you're spending $10,000, you're losing $3,500 of that down the drain. But that's not where it stops. From there, the average team member loses 50% of their marketing opportunities on the phone. And most dentists say, no, that's not us. We convert way more of that. I hear that. But if you don't track it, you're probably around that. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dentists. Just looking at this data point alone, everybody kind of reverts back to 50% until they get training. Okay. And then most people are scheduling way far out. I'm just working with a dentist that their ROI is 4-to-1, but they have to get 90 days out from that month to see that 4-to-1 ROI. What does that mean? That means they're scheduling the patient like a month out, and then the patient's coming in and they have problems, and they're scheduling the treatment out, and they're eventually getting the treatment, which is awesome. It's way too long, and it gets really, really confusing, and they lose a lot. They could be doing way better. So you can't schedule patients that far out because your no-show rate's going to go higher. Your just slippage is going to be really bad. And so overall, you end up losing about 80% of your marketing budget. And if you don't track these things, this is probably where you're at. What can we actually do about that? Well, we have some training that I'm going to offer you down below. So clear aligners, all that kind of stuff is going to be growing. The full arch market is going to be growing. I don't know. I think the people that need full arch are definitely going to be more out there. But what I'm seeing right now is GP offices are failing miserably at implementing full arch. It's almost universal. And everybody I talk to, all the major implant companies, all the people who work in this industry, they're all scrambling to try to figure out how to help GP offices implement more full arch, but they can't. So you got the experts who are getting better, and then you got the GP offices that are getting worse and worse and worse and worse at this, and they're causing themselves massive trouble. And I figured out a simple rule that I haven't heard anybody else say. It's very simple, is that if your operations as a dental office can't grow with GP, then there's no way that you can do full arch. So if you've been this stagnant office or shrinking office with GP and you think, oh, we'll add full arch, that will fix it. Actually, what you're saying is my operations are broken with GP. I can't grow. And so now I'm going to complicate my operations with the hardest thing operationally and clinically that I can add into my office. And that's going to fix my problem. In fact, the opposite is going to happen. You are going to fail miserably, and you are also going to shrink your GP side as well. So you say, well, man, that's depressing. What should I do? Well, the answer to that is first, fix your GP side of your operations, get that operating soundly, and then you can add complexity. But don't add chaos on top of chaos. If it's already operationally chaotic, don't add more chaos on top of it. And you say, well, how do I know if it's chaotic, right? Because sometimes we're the frog in the water getting boiled. So how do I know if it's chaotic? You know it's chaotic if you're not growing. If you haven't grown, then your systems are broken. Something's broken. So don't add something more complicated on top of it. Simplify first. Then you can come and add complication after you grow.
I'm not promising it. I'm simply sharing with you what you can do if the stars all align for you. If everything lines up just right, you could do this. You could pull this off. But even if you get half of it, even if you get it to 700 ROI, you're crushing. You should be really, really happy. So how did they actually do it? So what they did is they opened up their schedule for emergency patients, and they started marketing to emergency patients. And you might be wondering, well, what's the difference? Why does it matter if they're marketing for emergency versus other patients? Well, the reason why is in every single dental office, and it's amazing that a lot of dentists don't actually think about this, there's only 3 ways to come into your dental office. And everybody does it a little bit different, but there's 3 basic ways. They can come in through the hygiene schedule, they can come in through the doctor schedule, or they can come in through the consultation schedule. Now, I know that some offices only let people come in through the hygiene schedule, but they come through the doctor schedule first, right? And then they go to hygiene. Some come through the hygiene schedule and then go to the doctor. Some go to the doctor and then maybe go to the hygiene schedule. And some use the doctor schedule as the consultation schedule. Like, I know people mix and match these, but in this, just for simplicity's sake, however you do it is fine. But there is a difference between coming in through the hygiene schedule where a patient doesn't have any problems per se, they just want to get their teeth clean, and coming in through the doctor schedule. That's a huge difference, okay? And emergency patients are always going to come in through the doctor schedule first because they have a problem. And that problem makes them very motivated. Now, the problem with that, or the downside of that, is that they're short-term ROI driven. So what does it mean to be short-term ROI driven? They are going to get treatment done right away because they're extremely motivated. You don't have to be good at selling dentistry or presenting treatment or have everything perfect. They just want to get out of pain, get out of the discomfort, get their tooth, if they lost a tooth, get something replaced so they can go to work the next day. Like, it's pretty straightforward, right? Versus, consultation patients, which are like aligners, implants, things like that. Those are going to be harder to sell, bigger ROI, harder to sell. You have to get a lot more of them, and less of them are going to say yes. So there's a huge difference between those two types of patients. Okay. So emergency patients are going to come in through the doctor schedule, need work done immediately. And as long as you can do all the work, you're going to be able to see a high ROI because it's actually cheaper to drive emergency patients. Now, one of the little tricks is you can actually drive emergency patients off peak hours, meaning when all the dental offices close at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is in your market, dental emergencies don't stop. They keep coming. And the bigger the city, the more dental emergencies you're going to have, right? So what that means is no one's running ads after hours. So you can actually run ads after hours for emergencies and capture those patients and schedule them for the next morning and say, okay, first thing in the morning, let's get you in. We're going to take care of you. We know you're in pain. We'll get you out of pain tomorrow morning, right? You can get them moving right away. So there's a bunch of nuances that you can play with to drive cheaper opportunities, cheaper patients coming into your schedule that need help right away. But here's the problem. You won't retain these patients long-term unless you have one thing, and it's a membership plan. And the thing is most hygiene patients are going to come in. They're going to come in via insurance, right? They're going to come in with an insurance and saying, hey, my insurance covers it. Let's get my teeth cleaned, right? Versus the emergency patients, a lot of them aren't going to have insurance. And to be honest with you, they probably ignored the last dentist or two about like, hey, you should probably get that filling redone. You should probably take care of this cavity now. You should probably do this thing now. And now it's actually causing them pain. So now they're motivated to get it done, and they're going to continue to hop dental offices unless you have a membership plan. So the membership plan is what locks that patient in, and there's some nuances to the membership plan. And most dentists get this wrong. The nuance to the membership plan is this. You must use it to get them to come back to their next hygiene appointment, and that means they have to sign up for it. Facebook is what we call low intent, meaning almost nobody goes to Facebook and types in dentist near me and is looking for a dentist. Why do people go to Facebook or Instagram? They're going there to be entertained. So this is very similar to television ads. So when you watch let's say you're watching a basketball game, you're not watching the basketball game for the ads themselves. You're watching the basketball game for the value of the basketball game. And so it's low intent, meaning you're going to get in front of your audience that you want to get in front of, but they might not be looking for a dentist at that moment. And that's why it's low intent. That's why it's cheaper. That's why you need more volume. That doesn't make it bad or wrong, okay? So it just is different. It's a different approach. And so what you need to do with Facebook, you need to be able to understand that, first of all. Second, to make Facebook work, you need to be able to know who you're actually targeting. And then also there's only so many people to target in your market. So if every dentist is running Facebook and Instagram ads, then it makes it much tougher to be successful with that. And the same goes for Google as well, right? So you need to understand the competition levels. So first thing is understanding high intent versus low intent. Number two, you need to be able to look at your competition. Are they running ads? If you live in that area, it's very easy to see and know that. what we like to do, what I like to do, and I prefer to do, and you're not going to be able to do this with $500, is I want to target people high intent on Google and then retarget people on Facebook who don't come and convert on the website. So as an example, let's say you get 1,000 clicks coming through to your website. Only a fraction of those are going to schedule an appointment and call you. So what we like to do is then retarget those people on Facebook and Instagram, because we know they're going to go back there later and stay in front of them, because why didn't they schedule? There's a reason. Maybe they're not ready yet. Maybe something scared them away. Maybe they got busy. Maybe their kids are crying. Maybe they're at work and their boss walked in, right? Whatever it may be, they hopped off the website without scheduling, and now we want to get back in front of them. So if you're say, well, Gary, that makes sense, but how do I technically run Facebook ads? That you need to go to YouTube, type in how to set up Facebook ads, and then run them from there. And there's tons of videos on that. Now, let me give you some of the nuances about dental. First of all, you have to understand who your avatar is, which I already touched on. Then you're going to need to be able to have a clear call to action. What makes you different than everybody else in that market? Okay, so if you want more bread and butter dentistry, you're probably going to want to focus on like emergencies, things like that. Those don't work as well on Facebook. So then you can focus on hygiene, driving people in through hygiene. That can attract some bread and butter type dentistry. You can also attract more of the cosmetic side, but typically you're going to have better ad quality for those. So just text ads don't always work as good. They do in some markets, but not always. And so if you're like, man, I want veneers, you're going to have some nice videos to help you drive for those veneers. Now they're going to be much more expensive to drive those patients in. So when you're looking at it, you might end up paying $1,000, $500 to get a patient to walk through your door on these kinds of treatments. So one hack that you can do is go into the highest income areas in your neighborhoods around your office and run a really super duper competitive cleaning. So be way below everybody else. Only run these to the high income areas. Get those patients to come in on that. And typically they're going to have healthy mouths. Why does that matter? Well, that matters because they're going to be more focused on the cosmetic stuff. They have the resources for it and they don't need bread and butter dentistry. And so they're going to be more interested in your aligners and your veneers. And this is much cheaper to drive that type of patient in than if you were to go out and just target for veneers directly. And you already know they fit the profile of the patient that you want to attract. So that is a hack that you can use. When a patient comes into your office, especially from marketing, and they accept any kind of treatment, even treatment from, let's say, like their chief concern, right? They come in, ow, my tooth hurts. Oh, my tooth just fell out. I need your help. Or, oh, my tooth just chipped. Okay? So they come in, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to address the chief concern. Hey, let's get that taken care of. And as long as you get that treatment done and you accomplish that treatment that they came in concerned about, and or they schedule their next hygiene appointment over the lifetime of that patient, and we're just talking about one patient now, okay? You are going to get 100% of all the treatment from that patient. Okay, I want you to think about that. So the average patient's going to spend, I've heard tons of different numbers on this, but let's just say over the lifetime, they're going to spend with your office, they stay with your office for 7 years, and they're going to spend an average of, $2,000 to $3,000 a year. So we're talking about $20,000 to $40,000 over the lifetime with your office, right? Something like that. You are either going to get all of that or you're going to get none of it. If they stay with your office and all they have to do is address the chief concern and schedule the next hygiene appointment, you will get all of that treatment, all of it. Because they're just going to keep coming back and, we got to fix this filling and, we got to do this crown and you want aligners and what you need an implant, whatever it may be, right? All the way down the line, the whole life of that patient. Now, if you don't keep that patient, they don't schedule their next hygiene appointment, they don't get their chief concern and why they came in taken care of, what happens then? You get 0% of their treatment. Now, here's where the real kicker comes in. If you can figure out how to make sure that one patient stays with your office, not only do you get 100% of their treatment, you also get a patient referral or two every single year from them. So every year they're going to send 1 or 2 people in. So now you're getting that 100% treatment from that patient, plus you're getting a referral here and there from them that are also going to stay with your office because they were referred because the patient loved you so much and they said how great you were. So they refer them in and they stay with your office. And over time, what happens is that snowball effect starts to happen with just that one patient. So you get all of that treatment and you get all the future patient referrals. Or you get nothing and you get no patient referrals and you get no treatment on that one patient. Now, once you understand that concept, then you say, okay, well, now I got 10 new patients. It's the same exact thing. So with 10 patients, your goal should be, I want to keep 8 of them. I want to keep 9 of them, or I want to keep 10, whatever, right? And how you measure that is, did they get their chief concern addressed? And did they schedule their next hygiene appointment? If the answer is yes, 100% case acceptance over the life of that patient, you get all the treatment that they ever need. They're going to come right to you. And you get the referrals. Now, instead of 1 or 2 a year, now you're getting 10 to 20 a year from that group of 10. And then guess what happens? The month resets and then you get 10 more new patients. And guess what you get there? Another opportunity. What's been some of the things that's really helped you drive down that cost to acquire a customer?
Well, things like, let's say a patient will call and say, like, do you have Medicaid? So instead of answering the questions direct, it doesn't have to be that question, but any question that's kind of a tough question that you don't want to answer, you kind of ask them questions back around it. So you're like, oh, hey, are you a new patient or are you existing? How did you hear about us? What are you looking for? We try not to give prices, but of course, people price shop. So you have to answer their questions and give a range. And also something that we decided to do, which was your recommendation actually, was bring people in for free consultations with limited emergencies, cosmetic consults, just to get them through the door and try to convert them in person. Much easier to convert a patient in person than on the phone. So
it's impossible to convert them on the phone, right? So
it's
when you're trying,
impossible, but it's easier in person for sure. So something which I learned from you, and I've learned a lot of things from you, but one thing I did learn from you, which really helped us in 2023, was stop charging patients for or telling them there's a cost to bring them in. Even if they're a patient where we don't take their insurance, just bring them in, see what's going on, and then throw, numbers at them to see. And then, if they like the vibe of the office, the people and the doctors, that's what's going to make them want to pay the out-of-pocket fees. If you tell them a fee over the phone, they're just going to hang up on you, especially in New York.
Especially in New York, yes. So that is one of the biggest obstacles that I see offices put up before their patients is, and the only way that you're going to know if your office is doing this is by listening to all of the calls. Because a lot of times the front desk will just put up obstacles and that prevents the patient from coming in. So they want to know how much is a crown, how much are veneers, how much are implants. And you have to have the team trained to be able to open up that funnel to get this kind of ROI. And what happens, and there's a ton of offices listening, because I know right now people are going to watch this and go, 14 to 1 ROI, that's huge. Like, why am I not getting that? Why am I at 4 to 1 or 3 to 1 or 5 to 1? And the reason why is, a lot of times at the front desk, they're putting filters on those patients and you're preventing them from coming in. And what would you say, I know you've worked at a lot of different offices. So what would you say are the main things if someone's listening to this and like, man, I'm not getting the results that I want from my marketing? What would be your advice to them to help start getting results from their marketing?
Well, first is I would look at, the phone calls and what kind of calls you're getting, what kind of insurances are coming through. And like I said, drop the fees, especially just to get them in the door.
This has been a marketing journey I've been on for about 2.5 years. We're out of network. And so that's great and creates its own challenges from a new patient flow perspective. And so, the beauty, the problem that we've been trying to solve is how do we get more butts in the chair, And so we've tried different companies and I feel like I've done it all, and I was honestly kind of just fed up. I had gotten to the point to where I was like, nobody actually does what they say they're going to do, which is a huge problem. And so finally I was like, I made a bunch of phone calls to a bunch of different companies and was just like, hey, I just want results. Like, I really don't care how much it costs. I just want I just want patients.
Yeah.
Just deliver something, please.
Yeah, get them in. Yeah, get people in, and then we'll solve it from there. Because what I always remind people, and I'm not recommending this for everybody, right? So you're a newer practice, so it's like open up the top of the funnel, and then we'll figure it out. But most offices don't realize that the front desk has actually been trained somewhere else, usually, that just to basically just brick everybody, right? Like it's like nope, and it's so easy to say no to things and to block those patients. And you've done an excellent job around this, because you guys are converting in your second month of marketing at almost 80%. You're floating between 76, 78% for marketing new patients. That's really good, especially for the second month of marketing. Typically, the industry average is around 50%. And that's kind of what you were seeing, as you guys were kind of closing that up. At the same time, your first patient visit, you're averaging $690. That's up from $400. So that's almost a $300 increase per new patient visit. Just one visit, right? That first visit. So what that tells me is not only have you figured out how to get them in, but you've also figured out how to get them to accept treatment right then and get them doing some treatment, which makes them stick at the practice. Because let's be honest, that's why they're coming in to begin with.
Right. I feel like I always say our culture's sticky, and that's what matters most to me. It's what we talk about most in our practice. It's not the dentistry we deliver. Of course, I want to deliver great dentistry. I want our team to deliver great dentistry. But more importantly, it's like, how do people feel when they leave here, or even when they call in, right? And so I always say, like, if we can just get them in, we got, you know what I mean? And so that's been the biggest challenge. But yeah, when we get them in, I mean, our philosophy is like, get them to say yes to the best. We're going to give them a chance to say yes to the best. And then we can always walk it down from there, giving them some third-party financing options at every treatment appointment. So when we present treatment, it's not your like open dental printout. We have a financial menu that we print out, and it has third-party financing on it. And it's like, if you wanted to finance it for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months.
So smart.
Right here. And so then like you turn a $10,000 expense into a $500 expense really quickly, and people make decisions off monthly economies, not how much can I just put down? Because most people can't spend 10 grand.
So smart. I think I'm going to take a guess here. I think because you're younger, you understand that, because I would say 90% of the dental industry flat out does not get this. And here's what happens. And I've worked directly with a lot of the financing companies on this, and watched and looked at their numbers. What most dentists do is, hey, let's present treatment. And then if they say no, let's throw the life raft in for patient financing to see if that saves them, rather than leading with patient financing. And I don't know why. I know why they do that, because it costs them money.
Yeah, and you don't know how many patients are walking away because you scared them. You scared them with a big number.
Yep.
Like we consistently present big high dollar treatment because, like I said, we're giving them the chance to say yes to the best. But that doesn't mean everybody accepts everything we present.
Yeah.
We say, okay, is there a number that would fit more in your budget? And then we present a financial menu that fits in that budget.
I've seen so many marketing people just get let go. And what happens is, you were given the opportunity to lay a foundation. Most people don't get that opportunity. So think about all the things that you fixed to get to where you're at now. Like if you would have dumped marketing on top of those broken things, operational things, phones, schedules, all the reviews, all those things, it wouldn't have worked, right? You would have failed. And then you would have been like, oh, I'm failing. And that's what makes dental so tricky.
Yeah. And not just that, if we had really rolled out, especially the advertising segment too early, right? You're just lighting money on fire and that's all you're doing. If everything's not ready and you go there, like, yeah, you might generate a few new patients, but there's so much to figure out just with advertising, just with the targeting. And that was really a lot of what we did last year. A lot of what we focused on was just refining that specific piece of marketing. And so, yeah, if we had not done that, not taken the time to make sure that everything else was really set up and was building on a strong base, we would have spent a lot more money than we needed to get here.
So question, how much to get 40% growth, how much more did you have to spend than the year before?
I believe so. I think the last time we spoke, our ad budget was about zero. Okay. You know, it's about as low as you could get. Maybe there was a couple things in there, but literally about zero. I think when we truly turned it on from maybe around mid-May to June is when it really came on. We spent roughly $300,000 across our locations to generate what I think production broke down to almost $2 million, maybe a little bit short of that. So yeah, right. And I think, shameless plug for my boss, but he said, I gave you a couple $100,000 and you kind of got me a new location and revenue. And so that is cool to hear.
That's so cool. What's the ROI? So that's like 7-1, somewhere in there. Yeah. 6.5, 7-1, somewhere in there, which is amazing for GP. That means all the changes that you made actually work. Because if you would have had those holes, no chance you would have seen that kind of increase. There's another shift that's happening. And the shift is that what worked 5 years ago doesn't work anymore. People are thinking that they can just invest like they did 5 years ago into their marketing, be hands off, not be involved with it, just kind of flip a switch and new patients come in and everything works. Doesn't work that way anymore. There's so many things that are working against you as a doctor that's preventing you from being successful, and you have to be aware of those and you have to work through those. And there is no sitting on the sideline anymore. It's just like with phone books. If you would have rode phone books all the way out and just stayed in phone books as your main marketing source, you would have shrunk and shrunk and shrunk until you died, until your practice disappeared. Eventually, you had to jump on the internet wave. You had to build a website. I was in marketing when dentists were like asking, do I really need a website? Do I really need a website? And today, I'm working with dentists that are like, do I really need to do these things that are going to make me successful? And the short answer is yes. And I'm going to give you 4 of them. And they're very, very simple. Okay, it's the 4 M's of marketing. And you have to do all 4 of these, and you have to pay attention to all 4 of these. So if you're not successful right now with your marketing, this is for you. If things aren't working the way that you want, these 4 M's will help you clarify where to focus your energy. So the first place to start is your marketing, right? It might be your marketing. In the instance of phone books, if you were investing $5,000 in your phone book and you weren't seeing results, that is a marketing problem. That is a marketing problem. Period. So you had to change the method. Right now, if you're just posting on social media and it's not getting results, you probably have a marketing issue. If you're just doing SEO and you're not getting results, you probably have a marketing issue, right? So, and I could go through every kind of marketing around that. So if you're not getting results, that's the first place you start. Is it a marketing issue? Now, before you cut your marketing and say, oh, it's a marketing issue, you have to look through all 4 of these. So the second place that you need to look, the second M, is marketing. If it's not your marketing, it's your market. Okay, very close. Marketing market. You say, what does that mean? Not all markets are created equal. So if you call your friend and they're a dentist too, and you're like, what's working for you? And they're in a mid-sized city and you're in a rural area, it's different marketing. Different strategies. In a bigger city, you're going to only target a small circle around you, and you're going to be thinking about where people work and where they travel that way. And you might only target 3 miles, 2 miles around your office. On the flip side of that, you might be in a rural market where you're targeting 30 miles out. Totally different. Now, here's the cool part. We actually have maps that we build for people to help them visualize this, to see where their actual new patients are coming from. Dentists are funny because they'll tell us, well, I'm in California, and one time I had somebody fly for Texas. So everybody's our patient. And that might be true. You might be an amazing dentist and people are willing to travel really far, but the majority of your patients aren't traveling from Texas, right? We shouldn't run ads in Texas to travel to California. So we have to figure out where your new patients are already coming from. And then we also have to look at your competition. That plays a huge role, because if there's a lot of different options for dentists in your area, then it's going to be harder than if there wasn't a bunch of options in your market. If you're recently on Facebook, we were talking about marketing and marketing spend, and there was multiple people that said, I'm in a really rural market. I grew up here. I'm the only dentist here. There was one other dentist, but they're further away. And so we've done great without marketing. Yeah, if there's no other options, you don't need to market. But if there's options, then you have to start thinking through marketing, and you have to look at your market to figure that out. So that's the second stage. So if you want those maps, comment below. We'll get those to you. They're free. All right. So you look at your marketing. Is it a marketing issue? Are you still doing MySpace and phone book? That might be why. Okay. You might not be using the right combination of social media, paid ads, SEO, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So next is your market. You need to look at your market. What's going on in your market? Have you looked at it? Have you looked at your competition? Have you looked at drive times for your existing patient base? Have you looked at traffic flow? Have you looked at where the schools are located and where traffic flows naturally? And are they coming by your office, or do they have a bunch of better options on the way before your office? Those kind of things. That all matters, okay? Next is motivation. You say, what do you mean by motivation? Well, I have no question that doctors are very motivated to grow because it affects them, right? They make more money. You get more new patients, you keep more of those new patients, you make more money. But is your team motivated for you to grow? So let's talk about the foundations of marketing. Now, again, most people get this backwards. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to nail down your avatar. What is an avatar? That's just your ideal patient. This is the exact person that you want to attract to your office because it's the kind of dentistry that you want to do. Now, the step even before this is you have to identify the kind of dentistry that you want to do, right? So a pediatric avatar, as an example, might be a younger mother who is interested in their children's health. And if you're a Medicaid office, it might be different than if you're a fee-for-service office, right? Different level incomes, things like that. So you want to get really, really detailed in the kind of dentistry you want to do. And then you want to identify the kinds of patients that you want to attract. And you want to document that. So the worksheet that I showed you at the beginning, we're actually going to give that away. It's an exact worksheet that you can go through and you can just fill in the questions and it'll actually tell you what kind of patient that you want to attract to your office. This is super important. So what most offices do and what most dentists do is they speak in clinical terms about the kind of patients that they want. So they'll say things like, I want bread and butter dentistry patients. That's great. And I understand what you're saying, but the patients have no idea what you're talking about. I recently listened to a phone call where a dentist took a phone call and the patient had questions about insurance, and the dentist went on and on and on about how they're a fee-for-service office. Patients have no idea what a fee-for-service office is. No clue. They don't use that kind of vernacular. They don't know what a pro fee is. So you have to first, before you do anything in your marketing, if you want to attract the right kind of patients, you have to figure out who your avatar is. Who are you actually speaking to? You can't do anything else until you figure this out. You always start with this. It's really the base of everything that you want to do. Don't start with clinical jargon or what the dentist wants from their perspective. Start with what the patient is looking for, and you can back into that from what the dentist wants. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And so this is the first thing that you want to do. All right, next thing you want to do is you want to build out your brand. You say, well, I already built my brand. Here's the problem. Most of the time when people are putting together their brands, they're putting together a brand that they love. And there's nothing wrong with you loving your brand, but are you the person that you want to attract to your practice? So I'll give you an example. If your ideal avatar is, let's say it's a 35-year-old mom with 2 kids, married, works a job at a medical facility. That's your avatar you want to attract. And you're a 60-year-old male, a dentist. You have different taste and different opinions about what is nice and what looks pretty and what's going to attract you versus them. You are massively different, actually. And so a lot of times what I see dentists where they make this mistake is that they build things that they love, but it may not speak to the avatar. And that's a huge problem. Your marketing won't work, or it won't work as well as it could work. So what you want to do is you want to first start with what does the avatar want? And then you want to build out your brand from there. And here's the problem. A lot of marketing companies don't push on this kind of stuff because it's easier just to give the doctor what they want. So I'll give you an example. If you go to most marketing companies, you're gonna go to them and say, I want this, I want it to look like this, I want it to look like the Apple website, and I want these kind of pictures, and I want to have like a luxury brand feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want, that's fine. And most marketing companies will give you that. Here's the problem. They won't have a conversation with you that, hey, that might not attract a mom who's looking for value, not for luxury. So you have to think through that, right? You can scare people away with your website and your brand by being too nice, right? They can look at it and go, oh, this is too expensive. I can't bring my whole family here. I have 4 kids. I'm not going to be able to afford to bring my family here. And you might be going, no, you're exactly who we want. Or maybe you do want a luxurious brand and you do want to scare people away that you are, you want to only work with a certain echelon. So that's fine if you're all cosmetics and things like that. Nothing wrong with that. But you got to get clear on what the avatar wants, okay? This is so important.